I'm going to ask a question. How did you begin your government contract journey?
And we started it as an 8A and then became a HUBZone company twice over. One of the things that we started looking at is how we could empower our community in the journey. So as we developed, we started bringing in young people from the historically black colleges. They worked in anywhere from business development in IT, cybersecurity, and through that journey, we've been able to empower the community. We have a $35 million contract with IRS, and that was the journey of teaming with other companies in order to win that contract. We're CIOSP 3 Prime. We probably have about 20 companies that work with us on that. So most of our journey has been, subbing, then, making that decision to become a prime. And as we moved up, our subs moved up too.
Well, mine was a little bit different. I was former government employee, a contract auditor, and I came out and started as a independent consultant. Started working with some small businesses on how to navigate and get into the government contracting arena. And what we had is with one of those subcontractors and says, we really need your experience. Will you please, join us as a team, on one of these vehicles that they were working on? And we said yes. We had no desire to go back into the government contracting, but just sort of fell back into that. And that was over 22 years ago. And from that, we just started looking at, that was in 1997. The HUBZone program came out in 1999. So we made a very conscious effort that, to participate in the HUBZone program. And for those of you who have been that long in the HUBZone program, it was significantly different than it is today. So, once we did that, we started looking for HUBZone set-asides and found one in Fort Riley, Kansas, running a postal service. We proposed on it, won it, and that really started us and propelled us into the prime contracting for federal government.
Same thing with immersive. I started out, myself and my business partner, Kevin Roberts, who's at the front. Kevin, want to raise your hand real quick? Throw him under the bus real quick. But we started out, Kevin and I actually started out working for larger SI system integrators like SCIC, you guys know them, the Grumman, all the big ones that are out there. We started as engineers, really. And our first job, I think Kevin and I worked together, was actually over at NIH, National Institutes of Health. We ran all of the video services for NIH and all of the communities. What was interesting about that is that CIT was the organization we supported. They actually forced us to go out and market and sell services to other components and organizations. So what they were technically doing was teaching Kevin and I really how to be a salesman for the services that we were actually standing up. I think in my journey, I left there and I went and worked for a manufacturer, and the manufacturer, I left there actually, supported Polycom as a manufacturer, understood what it's like really on the sales engineering side. Moved from there over to an Intel agency, ran back into Kevin again, and then we started our company from there. Subcontracting was the biggest start for us. We had a few opportunities down in DoD. We knew a lot of people within that space. We also understood exactly what we were doing, what services we performed. We did it for so long. So I would say the Pentagon really got us our first break as a subcontractor through a larger prime, actually, and that relationship really blossomed into additional contracts. It took us a while, I would say, probably to get our first prime contract, maybe within the first year or two. Funny enough, it was actually a HUBZone contract at DISA, was our very first contract there. So really from that first prime contract award, we really decided to grow organically, right, with each individual customer that we supported. Making sure that we really didn't overextend ourselves, making sure that, we really kept that white glove approach. We didn't care whether it was a $5,000 contract or a $5 million contract. Everyone gets treated exactly the same. We roll out the red carpet for everyone. So I think that's what's gotten us to a point where we could grow. I would say over the last, really when we started, I guess the first 3 years was subcontracting. In our fourth year in business is when we probably got an 8A. I don't know if you guys have been through that process or not. It was a long process. A lot of kickbacks, a lot of back and forth with SBA, but we were able to work it out. Maryland PTAC actually helped us a lot as well when we started. Shout out to Maryland PTAC, honestly. They gave us, they helped us with our GSA schedule. We had no idea what the heck we were doing. But they really helped us out and provided those services for us. And we actually have a few direct awards on GSA schedule as well, using that Schedule 70. So that's a part of the, part of the larger IDIQs that, as a small business, you guys should really start looking to leverage as well. Not only HUBZone, but leveraging HUBZone and your schedule, right, to make sure you get those small business designations. So.
My name is Dottie Lee. How did I start Trans-Pacific Communications? Unlike many folks, I never thought I would be an entrepreneur ever. And my background was in journalism. I was a producer at C-SPAN, the Public Affairs Network, for many years. And then I said I need to be on the other side of the fence of the media, so to speak, to be doing media work, communications work. So my first job out of C-SPAN was a corporate spokesperson at Innova. While there, I realized I had a liability on the job, which was my Chinese accent and the southern drawl I picked up from Mobile, Alabama. I'm a transplant. I came from China, born and raised, and went straight to Mobile and got my education there. So as you could imagine, when I had this mixture of this funny accent, being a spokesperson, that wasn't good enough for me. I decided to neutralize and modify and reduce my accent so I could sound credible. During that process, that was the spirit of that entrepreneur spirit that hit me. I thought, someone who made a living as a network television producer, as a corporate spokesperson, I needed that assistance to get me to the next level. So I thought all the other people that I knew at the time, non-native speakers, engineers, PhDs, and what have you, I knew they couldn't put a sentence together. And I thought, well, I could get certified, then I could train others, all the other non-native speakers, to improve their communication, to increase their confidence so they could advance in their career. So that started that entrepreneur spirit. And many years later, I started Trans-Pacific Communications. And the first assignment, contract, if you will, I got was through USDA. Because, as you know, a lot of federal agencies are very diverse. They have this multicultural, multi-ethnic workforce who needed that kind of support, and they invited me to give a training, and that was the beginning of our federal contracting service. In addition to that, my story resonates with a lot of people. I get to be invited to speak as a keynote speaker at many federal agencies. This month in particular, which is Asian American Heritage Month, I get to go to many federal agencies to deliver keynotes about Asian Americans' challenges in the workforce and how to overcome these challenges. So through those speaking engagements, I get to connect with their training folks, their HR folks, their HCAT people, and we are able to get even more contracts to help people bridging the cultural and communication differences.
Okay, one of the things that Dottie was saying that I think is going to be critical for companies that want to be HUBZone, or any company, is to answer the why. She said why she got in this business, because the why is going to sustain you. Because believe me, you're not going to make a whole lot of money your first year, second year. Many of the people sitting in this room, it took 5 years. So you're going to have a why that I am doing this because I really am going to make a difference, whether it's in communication, whether it's in IT, whether it's in construction. You have to settle the why before you do this. The second part is, why do you want to be a HUBZone? We chose to be a HUBZone because we knew there were young people out there in Baltimore that were ending up on the other side of the law because they didn't have opportunities. So our decision to be a why and to be a light there, that's the reason I get up in the morning. Even when I'm not feeling the IT, it's like I got to make a difference for the next generation. So you have to settle, to be a HUBZone company, I think you have to settle 2 whys. Why you're in business and why you want to be in a HUBZone. Because as soon as it gets shaky and the legislation changes, you're going to run from the HUBZone. You need to settle that.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Pons. I'm with Dye Technologies Corporation, and I'm also a real estate broker. So I'm fortunate in that I am already in a hub zone, okay, before my company even took off. But I do have a question from a service provider side. I'd like to know, hub zones are very much about location. What was your interaction with what was your decision process as far as deciding to be in a hub zone and how you chose the particular location? Did you work with a real estate professional, a leasing officer, or you just looked at the map and you looked for rent signs or for sale signs?
I'll take that one.
Thank you.
That's actually a very good question because I am a transplant to the hub zone that we are in right now. It was not an area that I was aware of, but it was really looking at, knowing the general area we wanted to be in, whether it was rural or urban, was the first thing, which we chose rural. And then it was working with the economic development groups, those organizations. We were first certified in Allegheny County, Maryland, which is in western and out by Cumberland, in which at that point in time, the Hub Zone program was very, very new. But we had Garrett County further to the west, which was a total county, which we knew that everyone in that county was going to be Hub Zone. So for about 2 years, we really worked with the economic development group that was out there and the real estate brokers and tried to identify a location out there. But that was critical in our review of the hub zones. And working with those economic development groups should be your first stop when you're trying to evaluate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Same thing with immersive. I think we understood the Beltway area. We want to be centrally located to a lot of our customers that we currently support where we have relationships. Funny enough, we just looked at the Hub Zone map and said, okay, where do we really want to look? Where do we really want to be at? How can we make an impact in that community as well? And with us being in Beltsville location, it really worked out. It was kind of like, gotta pray for it that it comes, right? So FDA was right next to where we are, right beside us. And we were like, okay, hopefully we can get a contract over there. Well, funny enough, we end up getting like 3 or 4 over there now as a prime contractor. So really, we really looked at the area that was really close to the Beltway, looked at the map, and looked at how we can impact the community. We do a lot of work with Prince George's County EDC. We also have like a 3,000 square foot lab in our space, about 4,000 square foot, where we bring in a lot of the younger talent, which is why University of Maryland is so important to us being here. We wanted to bring in some of the younger students, some of the younger talent, send them through a training environment, a training lab, and that training lab really replicates what a government environment looks like. So as we bring them through an internship, we give them the opportunity to see what that environment is and also really shape them for government contracting, shape them for what, when you leave college, here's the practical experience that you're going to see, whether it's enterprise IT services or whether it's AV or whether it's construction. So what we really wanted to create with Maryland PTAC, University of Maryland, and also just being in the hub zone itself is a full circle, right? Where we have our new recruits, we have our new talent. There's no need for us to go through recruiting and talent. They're right here located by us, right? They're in Prince George's County. They're here at the University of Maryland. They need jobs. We need young talent. We need fresh ideas, right? Out of the box thinking. So that's kind of where we position ourselves. We want to be close to here, close to our customers, and really give a chance to give back to the area. So.
Hello, my name is Evie Washington, and I'm the owner of All-in-One Medical Supplies. You're talking about Prime. I had been contacted to be on a couple of Primes and I thought things was working out. And then when they got ready and actually closed the deal, I found that I wasn't on there. My name and my business was just used because I was in the proper locations and everything. And I'm a woman, and and I'm a minority. So I had every little box that they could check, they used instead of having me and paying me to be the prime. So how do you know how you're getting an ethical person? Somebody really you can trust in, somebody that's not using you just to get the contract and then you can't find them.
What we're doing right now is making sure in the HubZone community that we get the information out. We're being transparent about what companies are great to prime with and which ones we look at and say, no, they don't keep their word. I think part of this relationship in the HUBZone community is us being honest enough, the integrity to say, okay, I'm honest, but I'm going to say, this person, watch out for. And that's the language we use. We don't say, just watch out. We may say, make sure your teaming agreement is really tight. What does that tell you? That tells you that you're going to end up in some challenges. So the idea here is there's a lot of folks that have been HUBZones for years, even small businesses that will be honest and transparent. You know, ask them the questions, create mentor relationships that expand across the board. And they'll be honest and they'll tell you the truth.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Crockett. I'm with DMV Solutions. It's an IT management consulting firm. My HUBZone office is right down Route 1 in the Arts District of Hyattsville. I chose it because that happens to be where I reside and where I started the business. I also have space at the PG County EDC. And I'm just curious to know what exactly it is. Well, before I ask that, I will tell you a little bit more. I have a prime contract with the Millennium Challenge Corporation. We support the Office of the OCIO. I'm on Maryland CATS, Department of IT. 3 functional areas there. Maryland Health Benefit Exchange, that's another master contract. And I just got a BPA award with the Federal Aviation Administration. So all of those are prime. One is actually billable because I have to respond to task orders. So my question to you all is, what exactly do you look for when you're picking out your subs? What's the criteria?
For immersive, a lot of our sub relationships are just what they are. They're relationships. We consider every subcontractor that we work with a partner, but I also consider it like almost like a marriage, right? We're tied at the hip. If you don't perform, we don't perform. We got to do it together. One team, one fight. As far as picking them, I think a lot of it is networking. Kevin and I have been just a countless number of networking events we've been to. Networking with other small businesses, finding out, just like you just mentioned, where are you? What agencies are you in? What are you supporting? What are your services? I think also picking someone that's very like-minded, like you, that shares in that same passion. Some people have it, some people don't. You know, understanding like missions, right? You know, similar missions and what you guys, and what the goal that you both are trying to achieve. So really aligning strategies, kind of like a relationship. You want to be equally yoked, right? In some respect, because once you guys get into business together, there's no turning back. Like she mentioned, last thing you want to go through is a bunch of legal stuff, trying to get rid of subcontractors or trying to work with other prime. He's holding his hand up. I thought he was stretching. He's telling me to shut up. So I'll probably stop. But like I said, being equally yoked, I think, is the biggest thing. And even in that mentor-protege relationship, you know, finding someone. I'll give you an example. This guy, his name is Marquise. I wish he was here today. Marquise found me on LinkedIn about 4 years ago. And Marquise is a very energetic young gentleman. And he kept courting us, kept courting us. But Marquise, I knew one day we would work together, right? He's a very young guy, just starting off his business. Somehow he ended up working his way into University of Maryland, right? Marquise would come past the office maybe once a week. We would open up our door, let him use all of our services. I'm like, hey, you don't have an office, you have an office here now, right? 2 years later, probably Kevin, maybe about 2 years later, 3 years later, Marquise ended up bringing us a relationship out of University of Maryland. He's now a subcontractor on our very first competitive award for not University of Maryland, but for the state of Maryland. Sorry about that. And now we're subcontracting. He found a way for us to partner together. But I think having that relationship, having that door open, understanding his work ethics, how he worked, he understood a lot about our business and how we work. We were able to team up together.
Another thing.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to add integrity, transparency. If you say that you do agile, I expect you to come with some agile SMEs. If you say you do construction, I expect you to come with the construction SMEs. One of the challenges we have with subs is they'll say, I do 50 million things, and they do none of it. And once you get that lack of transparency of the truth, then we stop using them. We don't call on them. And then lastly, responsiveness. If we're writing a proposal and I tell you I need it by noon, don't give it to me the next day. I may not complain, but I'm not going to use you again. And you'll say, well, why isn't Lily taking the phone calls? Because you're not delivering. So those are the kinds of things we look at. It doesn't matter that you only do one thing. If you do that one thing well, we will use you again and again and recommend you to others.
I'm going to add to that, both Ruben and what Lily said. Ruben mentioned the word marriage, but before the marriage, you have that process, the courting process, the dating process. So you actually could figure out a lot about that potential partner or sub through the dating process. We had an individual who approached us and courted us, and everything was great. We had the same look, and we had the same outlook. We had the same kind of, we have the same expertise and maybe even the same passion, but what it came down to was the philosophy. There was a major difference in our philosophy. So before that became a solid relationship, we realized we couldn't rely on this individual to perform, because it would be the brand of Trans-Pacific Communication. It wouldn't be this individual. If we brought this person on, it would reflect poorly or badly on Trans-Pacific Communications. We couldn't afford that. So that was before the marriage, right? Then you call off and you break up, and that's how it goes.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Antonio Jones, Delmar Technologies. And my question gets back to how a HUBZone leverages certifications for competitive advantage. Specifically, some of you spoke earlier about certifications that you hold. My question to you is, what makes sense with respect to a HUBZone technology firm in the way of certification? But more importantly, how do you leverage those certifications when you talk to a federal government representative? And then above and beyond that, what makes sense for a firm who may not have a certain number of certs to obtain in the next fiscal year?
Okay, I'm going to take this one only because he works for me.
Please. Uh-oh.
Okay. DTI has CMI level 3 in services and development. That cost over $100,000 each one of them. So he had a two-part. So what I would suggest for those that are in the technology field that really don't have that money to invest in it, to team with companies that do, because it is expensive. And then you get to say, we're partnering with this company when you go to talk to a federal agency. We have ISO certifications, quality, service, and security. All of those have a hefty price tag to it. So I don't suggest that you jump out there and invest in that until you have that money, but identify companies you want to work with so that when you have an organization that uses that as a, let's say, some of us call it a barrier, others say it allows me to get in the door, you can use that partnership.
And one other thing that I want to say is, as these contracts get larger and larger, we need to be able to identify partners that are not actually in your similar field, but maybe a supplemental, that augment the type of product or service that you're providing. So expand your network to those firms that, looking at, let's just say construction, you may have a large construction job that comes out, and maybe you're just deal with concrete. Well, find all of these other, small businesses that where we can join together and maybe have a very viable HUBZone teammates that go together and can respond to these opportunities.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we're actually bonding as well. And part of that, let me say one thing too that's very important. I had a hard time understanding this at first because I did not like responding to RFIs and source of sauce. I thought they were like the worst things in sliced bread. I would just wait till the RFP comes out and then I would probably respond at that point. That's how we got started. That was the wrong way of thinking. Rule of two, always, right? Find a like company, find a partner that's a HUBZone. Both of you guys respond to those source of sauce. I know a lot of people think that they don't really do anything with them. If they take the time to write them, there's an opportunity that's behind it. I'll give you an example. Washington Headquarters Services. If they release a source of sauce, there's a procurement coming right behind that. If you guys see it, respond, respond, respond. We have to keep this thing small, right? We have to keep it so that small businesses can actually achieve that goal, right? So we can use our vehicles, whether it's 8A, whether it's HUBZone, we have to respond to those source of sauce. We have to let the contract officers know that we're out there, we exist. I'll give you an example. Kevin and I went to the Department of Treasury. We actually have a prime contract there as well, HUBZone, funny enough. And we sat down and met with the contract office, and she told us, she said, look, I cannot find any hub zones. It was like a diamond in the rough trying to find you guys. I'm like, really? We've been out here for I don't know how long. And she's like, do you know anyone else? Do you know any other hub zones that are out there that perform different services than you guys? I'm like, yeah, there's a ton of them out here. I go to a lot of marketing events. So going to marketing events, responding to sources salts, they actually read them. You know, if they take the time to write them, they are going to read them, believe it or not. The government will read them. So, you know, the rule of two is going to apply. We were able to steer a couple of large contracts to HubZone, right? Because it was a rule of two, because we took the time to respond. We took the time to team up. Call it a cooperation if you want, right? Where both of us get together and we're going to go after the same thing. What happens if we don't? I'll tell you what happens if we don't. Is I'm going to a larger SI, a larger company, on a larger vehicle, or it goes to some other competitive landscape that none of us can get access to. Right, so they're probably flagging me now, but that's just part of what we believe in as well.
One more.
The key is back to networking. And so when we have built a relationship with a particular place or officer, programming officer, contracting officer, whoever, and they may have placed an order for you, but then something happens, and you actually don't get this order for this year, this fiscal year. However, go back to them, check in with them, drop a note. The other day, I was on campus of this particular federal agency in the cafeteria. I ran into that same person who couldn't give us an order last year, and she said, "Oh, Dottie, I just recommended you to another center on campus because they needed this type of service." And as you might know, we are in a niche service. We don't always see, rarely ever see in federal forecast that there is a label calling for cross-cultural communication. Very rarely. So what we have to do is to go in to work with the people to create this service they may need. They don't know they need this, but after a few sessions, after a few meetings, they realize, oh yes, we do need that. Even with the same agency, same department, you have to go into each individual division, each individual center to tell your story over and over again.
How you guys doing? He's waving already. So, my name is Isaac Dua. I'm with Intellect Technologies. Guys, we're a staffing augmentation company. So if anyone in here is having trouble filling any jobs with people, I want to be the first person you call. And my question about HubZone, I guess I want to know the challenges. Are there any challenges in working with the HubZone, and how do you overcome those challenges? Like Dottie, for instance, working in Alabama, are there any challenges, in getting people to come to that area, something to that effect? Any challenges of working in a HubZone?
I think the challenge is to make sure that people understand what you could provide. You're providing a solution. So whether you're in a HubZone geographic area or you're doing something else, the core of your service is that you are able to provide some kind of solution for their workforce. So they are coming to you over and over again saying that Trans-Pacific Communications could help them advance their workforce to build a stronger and tighter, better team.
I think this goes back also to understanding, like Lily said, understanding why you're in this and being able to get that information out to your employees as well and prospective new employees, of being able to say that this is the culture within this. People will, respect that type of culture and may be interested in